Hey guys, it's Coach Shar. Welcome back to my online videos. Today I'm going to talk about our notes covering factoring quadratics. Again, I'm going to try to go through them quick so it's not a 20, 30, 40-minute video, like it was in class when I was sitting there waiting for y'all to copy. So I'm going to go through it pretty quick. And again, y'all can pause, go back and rewind, and listen to things that I said again. Y'all have the ability to do that with the video, but again, I don't want to make a super long video, so I'm going to go kind of quick. So this video is on factoring quadratics, like I said. Let me share. So again, I have the active software up, which we just got to kind of stick with for now. Again, I'll figure out how to convert it to put it on Canvas later. So we're factoring quadratic expressions. Here's our standard and our learning targets. So again, we're doing x squared plus bx plus c because we want, this is when there's no number in front of x squared, and then this is when there is a number in front of x squared. It's a little different. So let me go forward, bring this back down. All right. Anytime we need to factor an equation x squared plus bx plus c, this is how we're going to look at it. Again, this is no number in front of x squared. The signs might be different, but we'll get to that in a second. But the basic thing we're getting to is I want two numbers that multiply to give me my number on the end, and then combine, whether adding or subtracting, to get my number in the middle. Only one set of numbers will work. So I showed this in class. Let me show it real quick. Okay. I'm not going to put any signs, but if I had x squared, 13x, and 30. To multiply 30, we get 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. So what can I use to multiply to get 30 to get 13? Well, 3 plus 10, that's the obvious answer, right? But I could also do 15 minus 2. So it would depend on whatever signs are here would tell me whether I'm choosing this one or that one. All right, so to factor x squared plus 12x plus 32, we have to ask, what can we multiply to give us 32 and when added together give us 12? So I look at my factor pairs. 8 and 4, 1 and 32, 16, I know it's not the best looking, 6, and 2. Since these are both positive, this is super easy. So just two things that multiply to give me 32 that add up to give me 12, which would be 8 and 4. So the other thing we got to do on top of this, if you look at the standard, is we got to find the zeros. It said we got to factor to reveal the zeros. So I know the 0 got cut off here, but if we said x squared plus 12x plus 32 equal to 0, we factored it. What y'all were taught in Algebra 2 was to separate this and set each factor equal to 0. And then I would have to get x by itself. So I would subtract 8 on both sides here to get x equals -8, and subtract 4 for both sides here to get x equals -4. So those would be my zeros. Again, what do I plug into here that when I do all my math calculates out to be 0? But if you're just looking at your factors, again, as long as it's just x and x, you're saying, okay, I just need to cancel out this set of parentheses. So what would cancel out +8? -8. What would cancel out +4? -4. All right. So move ahead a few slides here real quick. Okay, if you want to check your factoring, here's the x plus 4, x plus 8 we got. Again, you can either do FOIL or the box method. If you need to check it, again, you don't necessarily have to. So when we bring the signs in, the signs are going to help us get our factors. So when both our signs, when we're saying plus plus, it's talking about our signs in our quadratic. So when we say plus plus, that means these two signs, and then both of my factors are going to have positive signs. Really, again, there's a few ways you can look at it. If you're looking at C, okay, if I know I've got positive C, you got to say, okay, what can I multiply to get a positive c? Well, I know I can multiply a positive number times a positive number, okay? But I can also multiply a negative number times a negative number. That's the next slide, okay? So we'll get to that in a second. Again, they just said x squared plus 6x plus 8. Again, for 8, you're going to say 1 and 8, 2 and 4. How can I use that to get 6? 2 plus 4. So now I've got minus plus. So yeah, that's what I was just showing. 2 negative signs will also multiply to give me a positive. But when I add a negative plus a negative, it's still going to give me a b in the middle. So when I have my first sign's negative, second's positive, you know both of my factors can have negative signs. Then again, you just got to figure out what goes in here. So you say, what can I factor to get 16? 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4. Which of those can I use to get 10? 2 and 8. So you got -8, -2. Okay, plus minus and minus minus. So now you're saying, okay, c is negative. So I'm multiplying two things to get a negative number. The only way I can multiply two things to get a negative number is if one is positive, one is negative. So whenever c is negative, you have one positive and one negative factor. Then it's just a matter of figuring out what numbers go where. So whatever two numbers you have, if your b coefficient is positive, your larger factor is the positive. So if we were using this 5 and 3, that would go there. If the b coefficient is negative, the larger number is negative. So if we were using this 4 and -9, those would go there. And again, we got an example. We're using the same signs, okay, same numbers, same signs for the 14, just one positive and one negative. So for either one of these, you're saying, okay, I got to multiply to get 14 and use those numbers to give me a 5. So my factors of 14 are 1 and 14, 2 and 7. You know you got to use 2 and 7 to get 5. Here it's positive, so I got to do 7 minus 2. Here it's negative, so it would be 2 minus 7 is what would give me -5. Okay? So that's kind of a key with your signs, all right? So let's just run through a couple of these really, really quick. All right, x squared plus 9x plus 14. I got plus plus. So I know both my signs are going to be plus plus. 14 would be 1 and 14, 2 and 7. So which of these can I add up to get 9? Of course, would be 2 and 7. X squared minus 7x minus 30. This is negative. So I know I'm going to have one positive, one negative. So I got two numbers I got to be able to use to get 7. So 130, 215, 310, 5, 6. Which of those can I use to get 7? Would be 3 and 10. So now you got to say, okay, am I going to do 3 and 10 or 10 and 3? Let's do it this way. 10 minus 3. What's 10 minus 3 give me? Positive 7. But I need -7. Okay? So it's not going to be 10 minus 3. It's going to be 3 minus 10. All right, so that's just a couple quick examples of that. So what happens when the coefficient of x squared is greater than 1? Ax squared plus bx plus c. That's when we have to do our slide, multiply, factor, divide. Again, it's very self-explanatory. So again, I'll try to get through a couple quick examples. 2x squared plus 9x plus 10. First two steps are pretty much tied together. Slide my 2 down and then multiply it by the number on there. Got right and slide. So slide and multiply, that gives me x squared plus 9x plus 20. Step 3, factor. And picked a pretty easy one to factor. What can I, this plus plus, so I'm gonna have x plus, what can I multiply to give me 20? It adds up to give me 9. I'm not gonna list them all since I'm trying to go quick, but it's gonna be 4 and 5, okay? So my last step is the divide. So I'm gonna take this 2, bring it down here. Again, we're really just trying to get this to be fat, okay? When I do my dividing here, it's basically like I'm undoing the multiplying step. And then if I get to any point, again, I'll show you on a second where I have to slide my numbers back out in front. It's like I'm undoing this, okay? So when I'm dividing, 3 things can happen when I have those fractions, like 4 over 2 and 5 over 2. They divide evenly. I can reduce the fraction, or I can't reduce the fraction. But even when I have where I can reduce the fraction, once I do reduce the fraction, then it'll be a fraction that I can't reduce, and I still have to do my last step. But I've got one here that I can and one that I can't. And the next problem will show 2 where I got to reduce them. So when I can do it, 4 divided by 2 is just going to give me 2, okay? When I can't reduce, when I can't divide it evenly, can't reduce it, I slide this 2 back out in front, which gives me 2x plus 5. So I have now factored 2x squared plus 9x plus 10 to this. One more quick example. Again, it's already going a little farther now, a little longer than I want. So again, y'all might have to pause and go back, but I'm trying to get through it. All right, 6x squared plus, what was it? 13x minus 5. All right, so I'm going to slide. I'm going to multiply. So it's going to give me x squared plus 13x minus 30. Again, we saw that a little earlier with the 13 and 30. So again, this might need to be one where you write it out now. So I'm going to say I got a factor, okay? But again, we already seen for 30 a couple times. 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. Since this is negative, again, I know one's going to be positive, one's going to be negative. Again, your eyes are probably going to be drawn to 3 and 10, but if I do 10 minus 3, that's 7. If I do 3 minus 10, that's negative 7. That's not giving me 13. So I've actually got to use 15 and 2. Since this is positive, I'm going to have positive 15, negative 2. Last step, divide. Okay. So again, I'm going to divide both of these, and now this is going to be to where I could simplify. Okay. 2 over 6 is going to simplify to 1/3. 15 over 6 is going to simplify to 5/2. This one I would divide both of these by 2. This one I would divide both of these by 3. And then lastly, now I slide 2 back out in front, slide 3 back out in front. So I get 2x plus 5, 3x minus 1. Okay, so there's a quick video on factoring quadratics. Again, if you got any questions, always feel free to send me a message and remind. And until next time, this is Coach Sharf, and I'll see y'all later.